Hosholoza, hosholoza, kulezo ntaba stimela, qonde Vusi Mampuru. Uvusu uyabaleka, vusu uyabaleka, kule testimony stimela, qonde Vusi Mampuru. Welcome, welcome, welcome to another episode of The Dissection. We are living in interesting times. Tupac told us Mzansi is a drama, it's a movie, it's a series, it's a telenovela, it's an amapiano song. Tupac was not lying in his song Mzansi Don't Cry. So today I have a special gift for you guys. I brought you guys some goodies in the goodie bag. the what can we call it? The Matlala carrier bag, right? What do I have in my Matlala bag? Actually, I have real goodies. So you already know the book here by Jeff Wicks. I have one of those. And then I have this book here by Mendy Winner. This one is a loan from a friend of mine, but I actually got a copy that is going to be delivered. And then I also decided that I'm going to start reading this book right here about this interesting figure, Paul O'Sullivan. So I got it today. I'm going to start working on it today, and I'm going to do an episode as he gets closer to testifying. So we got some goodies here. Now, the thing I want to say about one of these books, this one in particular, the Killing Cable, and it talks about the 90s and the early 2000s and the underworld. And one of the things that is exposed in the book, or that you begin to notice in the book, are the trends and the patterns. And one of the patterns that you notice is that security companies were being used to facilitate particular transactions, particular actions. And I think if I go here, let me check the name of the security company quickly. I think it's page 17. One of the companies here that is mentioned was, let me check this company. There's a few here. Equinon Protection Services. There was another one which was mentioned. And then later on, these gentlemen form a company. Oh yeah, here it is, page 31. Elite Security Group. And this Elite Security Group, as Mendy Winner says, would become the most powerful and influential crew to operate in Johannesburg and would build a formidable reputation for violent beatings. Its reputation instilled terror in nightclub owners and patrons alike. Week in, week out, reports of attacks and brawls filled newspaper column space. So these founding members ended up being the ones, some of them being implicated in the killing of Brett Keble. But the security company was used as a vehicle for violence, and also the nightclubs were then used as distribution centers for the drugs. So what you see is that nightclubs, strip clubs, and then these security companies were part of the infrastructure of cartel behavior in the 90s and the 2000s. And now here we are hearing about other security companies which have now gotten some kind of status and some kind of role in similar activities. So today, I want to talk about some elements that came out of Matlala's presentation and answers. Number one, the nature of the security company. Number two, the nature of his relationships in terms of with the police. And number three, the nature of the business relationships that he was in. So nature of the security company, nature of the relationships, nature of his business dealings. My approach to Matlala and his testimony is I generally believe he's lying on a variety of things. I think he's contradicted himself. I mentioned yesterday some of the major contradictions. There are still others, but I take him to be a dishonest witness and somebody who is trying to cover up for people who are close to him and to give a counter narrative that he thinks will then be able to exonerate him or to put pressure on Begitele and Kwanazi. I don't take his testimony to be honest, and I don't take any of what he has said in terms of the big allegations to have been corroborated in any way. But he does make some admissions of his own volition when he's testifying, which I think lead us to have a better understanding of what is actually going on. And I want to, before I go on, say the following. On July the 6th, Fiasco Sunday, Miasma Sunday, Crinkum Crankum Sunday, Mega Sunday, where South Africa was basically shaken by the testimony of General Mkhwanazi. We already had seen a vast amount of reporting on some of the issues which he was traversing. We also had as civilians and people living around some of these areas had witnessed that there is some kind of cartel activity. People in townships know, people who live next to these clubs know, and people have been having an understanding that there are certain characters and individuals who are dominating certain industries. That in and of itself was corroboration of what General Mkhwanazi was saying. Then on the day, he did show messages from Brown Mkhotsi. The media was shown snippets of various things, proof of payments, etc. So even on the 6th of July, evidence was submitted. I found it to be incredulous of the media to then come back again later and say, where's the evidence? When he had already shown messages on his phone from Brown Mkhotsi, already established that some of the elements that he was talking about were verifiable. And that to me felt like it was a reach by the media. But when it comes to a person like this character here, Vusi Matlala Manyala, it is imperative that we do ask for evidence and that we do ask for corroboration, because he has not provided any. And he does have a legal team. He does have extensive resources where if he wanted to provide evidence to the commission, to not the commission, in this case, we're dealing with the ad hoc committee, he would have been able to do that. He has not done that. He has not corroborated his version. So that's number one. Number two, we know that he has not taken a plea deal. So he is somebody who's awaiting trial and trying to avoid further charges, right? And as such, I do not take his testimony the same way that I would take a Section 204 witness testimony. A 204 witness is somebody who takes a deal and then as a result of taking that deal may not face particular charges or consequences for those particular charges. And even in that Brett Kebble book, there are some people who took 204 deals and as such were able to implicate people higher up on the food chain. And that's one of the things that ended up, collapsing Celebi himself, right? So this is something I thought I should mention. The last one is that one of the companies that he owned and resigned from, the Right to Own company, that company was conducting a scam, a Ponzi scheme, a pyramid scheme. And there are other companies where he has been implicated in scamming. So if you are talking to a scammer, if you are talking to somebody who is notorious for lying, you do not take whatever they say at face value. That would be foolishness, no matter how well they present it, no matter how well they dress. And boy, did he come dressed well today, right? Yesterday, we saw that he was in Burberry. Today, he was in Fendi. Every day, the man is wearing 50,000 every day. So you can see that his wardrobe is quite lavish. And that could be another thing. Leon Matthews at a later stage was talking about his lifestyle and the cost of everything. And I don't think his numbers are adding up. I don't think that the numbers are adding up. I think the problem with just the SIU investigation is that they take too long. Babita was killed in 2021, and in 2025, the SIU released a report on Hangwani Maumhela. That's 4 years. That's too long. It's definitely too long. So we may find out things about his lifestyle, but we have pressing issues that need to be discussed now. We can't wait for an SIU unit report. I actually think that the cops should move much faster in dealing with all of the things pertaining to him. Now, having said all of that, let's get into nature of the security company. Some of the things that he says about this security company are quite revelatory, but not in the way that he suggests. So he says that he has 8 special forces people, 1 task force person there. He's got 14 or so people. He's paying them 100,000 a month each. His budget for the security company is 2 million per month. And he was going to KZN in a massive convoy of these cars. They're not even branded with his company details, so there's not marketing, right, which was a suggestion there. This, to me, suggests that this is the behavior of somebody who is involved in drug activity and is afraid that his rivals will take him out. There's no other justification for having such a large security detail if all you do is health service risk assessments, and all you do is provide, hospitals with water and jeans and a variety of other items. That to me suggests that something is definitely up with this security company. And based on what I read about security companies in this book, and also some of the stuff that General Khumalo was talking about, that the security companies are then used as a legitimate way for people to access firearms and then to be able to use those firearms. We mustn't forget that Matlala is facing serious charges of attempted murder, not only of his ex-girlfriend Tebogo Tobejane, but also of Joe Sibanyoni, who may have been a rival to Msibi, who he used to work for, because Joe Sibanyoni is also one of the people who's heavily involved in the taxi industry. And if there was any rivalry between Msibi and Joe Sibanyoni, as he already acknowledges he was the security for Msibi, it's very likely that then he would be the muscle that then goes to take out Msibi. Adding to the fact that he's capable of threatening people who are implicated in kidnapping, and then those people return kidnap people, that means the kidnappers know this is somebody who they don't want to necessarily pick a fight with. All of this suggests that he is using his security company as some kind of paramilitary group which enforces his will and the will of the people around him. And in order for him to be able to effect that, he would need to have protection within the police service. But the nature of the security company, the costs, he said that, all of his clients were basically, what did he say? He said he's making about 2 million a month from other businesses. It makes no sense for him to be spending that amount of money on a security company which is guarding 4 schools, has 1 client. That maths is not mathing. So what I am deducing from this is that this security company is more in line with the stuff that Mendy Winner was describing in the book around Killing Kebble. That's number 1. Number 2, nature of the relationships. So in his discussions about the nature of the relationships, he's already told us that he was working with Msibi. And we've already seen from the media that Msibi was, one, the founder of Santoko, but also somebody who was very feared within the taxi industry and broader society. Now, I leave it to your imagination why you think he may have been feared to that extent, but there's multiple reports that you can find online which give details as to why Msibi may have been one of the most feared persons in South Africa and in the South African taxi industry, right? Then he says that Colonel Nkosi used to come all the time to Msibi, and that's where he knew Colonel Nkosi. And then he says that they have a relationship because of bikes and jet skis and all of that. And then he's sending Colonel Nkosi around like a boy. Hamelanda this thing. Go and get me that. Go fetch me, a battery for my thing. And then the colonel is like, yeah, sure, boy. Let me go get it for you. Can you not see that this is a story that doesn't add up and actually suggests, number 1, that Colonel Nkosi was the go-between between Matlala as well as General Sibiya. We already know that Nkosi went to Molefe's house with a bag. It wasn't a Woolies bag that time around. He went with a white bag to get some more goodies from the Molefe house, right? Chocolates in Sibiya's car. So if we can now establish that this guy had Vusi Matlala's card, that's exactly the same information we got at the Madlanga Commission. We already know that Matlala has said in voice recordings that, Sibiya, he was being paid a lot of money. And then this connection, I think, for me, adds credence to what was said by General Khumalo and the other witnesses about the money relationships between Sibiya and Matlala. Even though he did not want to admit it, I think that we can accurately look at the other evidence, the voice notes, the existence of the card, and the circumstantial evidence around this, and conclude that yes, there is a relationship with these guys. Then he says, and he's trying to fix now his testimony from yesterday, because yesterday he said he just met Sibiya in January of 2024 or thereabouts. And then when Sibiya was the acting commissioner, and then asked Sibiya about the hospital, which was located on the grounds of, the training college, and trying to get access, etc. But then now we know that his wife actually went to the wedding, or the wedding of the son, which actually happened later in 2024. Then he now tries to fix the story and say, well, I was there, and then, my wife was there, I had to go pick her up. Then he said something quite interesting. He said, General Sibia said, "What are you doing here?" Because I think General Sibia understood that for him to be present at such a high-profile event would create a link between them, which he didn't want. He didn't say it as if Sibia is surprised to see him there, because it's something that needs to be clarified. Also, Sibia said he met him more times than he acknowledged Yena or Vusi Matlala. So that's just something that I think is worth keeping in mind. Now, in addition to that, we then have this discussion around General Sona, and I think it's interesting how he describes General Sona and how he speaks about him. So let me play you that clip, because for me, that was one of the most revelatory moments in the whole thing. Here it is.
And when you met General Mkhonazi, was General Sona with you?
Yes.
And you say that Sona is an old friend of yours.
He is. That's a big brother.
What was the reason why General Sona was also... Did General Sona accompany you to the meeting, or was General Sona there when you met General Mkhonazi at Pearls?
Yes, he actually came to fetch me. I was at the hotel next to Beverly Hills at the Oyster Box. He came there to fetch me, and then I remember he was driving a white Polo, a VW Polo.
Yeah.
And then I drove with him.
Now, were you aware at that time that Major General Sona was working at the Silverton SAPS as the head of investigation at that time?
In Silverton?
Yes.
Silverton or KZN? You mean General Sona?
No, yeah, Sona, yes.
I don't think he was in Silverton.
You weren't aware?
What I know is that he was the provincial head of DPCI in KZN, not Silverton.
Yeah, he was the head of the Hawks. But General Sona had previously been stationed at Silverton.
I don't know that.
You're not aware of that? Because you would know or should know that there were a number of criminal cases registered against you at the Silverton SAPS. When at the time General Sona was head of the detectives.
In Silverton?
Well, the head of the detectives, in charge of the detectives.
In Silverton?
Yes.
I did not know that. It's the first time hearing that from you.
Now think about what this man just said. He said that General Sona, who's the head of the Hawks in KZN, is his brother, right? He picked him up from the airport. Why is he your brother? How do you have a brotherhood with this guy? That, for me, was a central question in all of this. Now, what then comes up, and in discussions with various people asking him questions, is that a lot of his cases were withdrawn at the Silverton police station, right? A lot of those cases which get withdrawn, various cases where it's possession of stolen goods, it's all of this stuff that get withdrawn. Then we find out that General Sona was head of detectives at Silverton police station. Can you see how the dots connect? Because now it appears that the reason why these cases may have disappeared or been withdrawn, and the reason why you guys have a brotherhood now, because you're even being picked up from the airport by your brother, a general. Imagine. Must be nice. Just like you call your broski there to pick you up from the airport. A whole general, a whole head of KZN Hawks takes time out of his day to pick you up, your brother. Hey, woo. That to me is something that I think General Sona will not be happy about if he still has to come and explain a variety of things. Actually, we know that already there are messages that have been seen between Matlala and Sinona discussing cash payments. And these are things which will implicate Sinona in a way that he will not be able to wiggle himself out of. This whole thing of denying the messages and all of that, and talking about the machine that is being used, or rather the software that is being used to extract the phones. I looked into that Cellbrite software. You can also go look into it. They've got a website, everything. You cannot alter messages using Cellbrite. Cannot do it. You cannot do it. So even if they left his phone on, and it could have been part of the investigation to leave his phone on and see what else comes in after the arrest. Who's going to message him? Who's going to try to reach out to him? I would have done the same thing as an investigator. I wouldn't switch it off immediately. I would, as part of my investigation, leave it on. It's not tampering to do that. And if that's his argument, I don't think that he's going to be successful in that respect. But regardless of the fact that the phone was left on, the idea that the voice notes, the voice recordings were tampered and the messages themselves were inserted, which is what Brown Mokhotsi was arguing, is not what Cellbrite can do. And guess what? They will probably have to get experts from Cellbrite to come and explain what their technology can and cannot do. And once that's done, all of this type of argument falls away. It falls away because Brown was like, yeah, Cellbrite, they're using Cellbrite. Cellbrite is being used. But Cellbrite is software that doesn't allow for that. It doesn't allow for what you're talking about. So having said that, this information about the relationship with General Sona actually is something that will perhaps be incriminating much further down the road. So we now know that there is a relationship with Colonel Nkosi, there's a relationship with General Sona, but he continues to deny there's a relationship with General Sibiya. He continues to deny that he paid General Sibiya. That's going to be a challenge for him because of his own voice notes, which he said were tampered. And that's something that, in terms of verification of authenticity of evidence, this is something that judges are very familiar with, that prosecutors are very familiar with. He is not going to have a good time in that respect. Now, let's talk about the nature of the business relationship with Jerry Bushoka or that side of it, the nature of his business, which I said is one of the themes I wanted to discuss. Now, he says he gave Jerry Bushoka 1 million. And at a different stage, he says that Jerry Bushoka had 20 kgs of what I now think is something called P2P. I'm going to explain what P2P is. P2P is something that is used in the manufacture of methamphetamine. It's actually called pseudoephedrine. I'm probably saying that wrong. It's something that is called pseudoephedrine. Ephedrine. It's something that is called pseudoephedrine. Shortcut, most people will call it pseudo. P2P. That is probably what Jerry Bushoka had in the 20 kg. And then you can use that actually to make much more methamphetamine. So I'm actually now assuming that Jerry Bushoka was making methamphetamine on a farm and using the farm as the cover in terms of the money laundering. Because you can claim that you sold 100 cows. Who is going to dispute that you sold 100 cows? How can we falsify that you sold 100 cows cash if you have a farm and there are cows on that farm? So I actually think that money laundering in Africa would have these types of variations. It's not going to be a laundromat. It's not going to be a hair salon or a massage parlor or whatever. It could also include entities such as farms. But I think that the farm as a location in and of itself, which he also says he has, is interesting because he says not farming. And he's got game and he's just got like a lake or whatever he's got there so that he can ski. I actually think that these entities, these farms, are being used for the production of methamphetamine, which is then being redistributed in various communities. I think that the money that he gave for Jerry Bushoka, that he knew that it was for the production of meth, and that when he didn't get his cut, then Jerry Bushoka was kidnapped and will never be seen again. I don't think that Jerry Bushoka is alive. I think that this dispute here was the result of Jerry not paying for the money that he got. And I think then the narrative that he's now giving, that he said, let me put up 5 million and told the dad, you put up another 5 million. he was going to get all of the 5 millions back. 5, his 5, and the other 5. So there was no 10 million that was going to be put up. He just wanted that other side of the family to pay him the 5 million that he believed that Jerry Bushoka owed him. So the discussion around this friendship and the way he says, yeah, well, I knew this guy was a drug dealer, but hey, what's it got to do with me? Most of us would be very, very hesitant to be friends, especially close friends, with somebody who is doing methamphetamine or something like that. And methamphetamine is one of the drugs that is actually being distributed widely in South Africa and can be locally manufactured. So what I'm assuming here is that that's what they were doing. That's what I assume. And I think we may find out more about this particular thing. So those are the 3 big baskets that I wanted to present to you around areas that we need to think about in terms of the testimony from Vusi Matlala and what we get from him. He was asked about Hangwani Maumela, but not to a great level of detail, because he says Hangwani had this thing that he needed to then register the company, which is the CAT VIP. Hangwani then takes himself out 4 days later, but they continue to have a business relationship because he was. We heard from the commission that he was still messaging Hangwani, reporting to him about the SAPS payments which were being made. Why would he have to do that if everything was okay? And in case you don't remember that, here is the clip.
And do you know if Mr. Maumela has any interest in the Medicare 24 contract that you've been investigating?
I don't know.
If I were to put it to you that the chats between Mr. Maumela and Mr. Matlala suggest very strongly that he has that interest, what would you say to that?
It's what you saw. I cannot say anything about that. I cannot say anything between their chats.
So you, in your investigations into this contract, which was apparently your tasking at Crime Intelligence, weren't able to establish who Mr. Matlala's partners in the contract were?
I've not yet reached that stage. And even where we are, it is not because of investigation. Whoever was lucky to see that the message happened to get to come across that they are working together. I did not know that they were working together.
We have Mr. Maumela being interested in Mr. Matlala's Medicare 24 contract.
According to what is presented to the commission, that's why I say
we
yes.
have a succession of chats between Mr. Matlala and Mr. Maumela accounting for keeping Mr. Maumela posted on payments from SAP.
But commissioners, between Maumela and Matlala, we need to agree they are not at my disposal. So I don't know if I must say correct. I must agree to that. I believe that you have cell phone chats which were not presented to me. And even if they were presented.
So can you see that there's something bigger here around Hangwani, which was not explored? Because how did you meet Hangwani? How do you meet this person who is so high level in Tshwane? At what point do you then get to meet this type of a high level individual who is buying Lamborghinis and all kinds of blue cars, or all these blue things that he's buying? Bluey, Chewy Bluey Hangwani. How do you meet Good Neighbor? How do you get to be friends with Good Neighbor? There's something that I thought would have been explored more. It wasn't explored more, maybe when it gets to commission. Then also the story around Julius Mkhwanazi, Dubious Julius, Brigadier Dubious Julius Fulius. I didn't talk about him, but he also falls into the relationships with the police at the Ekhuruleni Metro Police. He's going to have a challenge, Cat, because Julius is going to the commission. Brigadier Julius Mkhwanazi. He's going to the commission, I think, on Monday. And there, it's not going to be Christmas. They have extensive information. They've already listened to multiple witnesses who implicated him in a variety of things, including theft and all of that. So he's going to face a serious challenge. And when the questions start coming up about Vusi Matlala, we may find that Brigadier Julius Dubious Fulius will contradict some of the stuff that Vusi Matlala said. And he may not be able to have wiggle room, because those ladies there and Chaskalson, they're not playing games. I don't know who he's going to get, but whoever he gets, there's no easy one there. At the commission, whoever is leading evidence, it's not easy. It's not easy, especially if you don't know your story and you're trying to hide stuff. And these guys already have heard about dead bodies being disposed of. So the extent of testimony that Julius will have to give to corroborate what Matlala is saying at the commission will be quite extensive. And those commissioners, they watch what happens in Parliament. I just wish that the parliamentarians had watched more of what the commission was dealing with. I understand that it's exhausting because even for me, keeping up with both processes can be difficult. But if they had, I think that they would have been able to ask sharper questions to Vusi Matlala Wetsamanyala. What do you think, though? Where do you stand? Do you trust this guy? Do you trust him and his bag? The delivery bag of goodies, the Matlala packaging. Do you? Now we can't carry Woolies bags no more. Now we got to change because this guy is delivering packages of enjoyment in Woolies bags. Gunzima. Tupac wasn't lying when he said South Africa is a movie, a drama, a series, a telenovela, a mapiano song. He said that in Mzansi Don't Cry. Guys, let's meet in the comment section till the next one.